Then the next step is look at how much you have in the conservative bucket. At a high level here, when I say conservative bucket, imagine you've got two buckets. One is conservative assets, and then one is growth, or that's often the stocks bucket, right? And as you're looking at the tool or talking to your advisor, see how much you've got in cash or certain fixed income investments that shouldn't fluctuate as much as the growth assets should. And then if you go a little bit deeper, so you've got these two buckets, one's the conservative bucket, and I'll explain a little bit more the theory here, but look at that conservative bucket of cash and some bonds, but be aware of the bonds that don't act like bonds. We've seen a lot of people get caught off guard because they think that they're holding bonds that belong in their conservative bucket, but the investments fluctuate almost like a stock does. And if you're using Portfolio Visualizer, you can see the recent history of each investment to see how it performed over the last few years. And the year to pay attention to is 2022. That will be a key year to look at what are the conservative or what you think is a conservative bucket, and look at those investments in there. How did they perform in 2022? Just something that will shed some light on what really is in the conservative bucket versus the growth bucket. And here's a way to think about how much do I hold in the conservative bucket? Now, this is a nuanced answer because a lot of retirement success depends on your growth rate and your asset allocation. But one way to think about the conservative bucket and what's in there is not how much money is in there, what's the total amount, but how many number of years of withdrawals would that conservative bucket provide you if you had to just take from that bucket. For example, pretend I needed to take out $10,000 a year from my investment accounts. And I look at Portfolio Visualizer, I determine how much I've got in cash in some of these less risky bonds here, and I've got 100K in my conservative bucket. Well, rather than just looking at the value of $100,000, look at it as 10 years worth of withdrawals I can access that shouldn't be as impacted by the market swings. That's the way, rather than dollar amount, look at number of years of safe assets is kind of the thought there. That can give some peace of mind as you're looking over the next few years. And remember too, there is a downside. Sometimes we see as you get closer to retirement, you move a lot more into the conservative bucket, but there's a downside to holding too much in cash and conservative assets, especially if there's an incredible bull market that takes place this year or some year in the future. So there's a balance, there's an amount that's right for each individual or couple on what to do and how much to hold. And it really depends on your income plan first, getting that set, and then figuring out what to hold in the conservative bucket. But one note on cash here, it's true no one wants to hold cash during a bull market, if we go through one or a well-performing market, because it's so clear during that year or number of years how much you're missing out on when everything else is going up and you've got cash at whatever interest rate that it is. But if you can determine the right amount for your specific situation, and then think about, pretend the stock market goes up, or pretend your growth assets go up 10% each year for the next few years, and cash only was returning 4%. Well, your first thought is, I'm missing out on 6%. That's a 6% gap, right, that I'm missing out on. But think about cash as being the thing that allows us not to have to sell stocks if we experience a bad market. Think about the person who in 2008 had no cash or conservative bucket, and he was forced to sell things at a loss. So essentially, that cash, it isn't just 4% return, but it could be many multiples because it's saving you from recognizing a loss at the wrong time. So that's one way as you're planning things out, just to think if you have FOMO, if it's a good market and you've got this cash on the sidelines. So again, hopefully, I always have to say this, where don't take this as advice specific because we're not planning your specific situation, but as you look into it, hopefully this is giving you some thoughts and ideas as we're looking at allocation and portfolio. And I actually have a video coming out soon on how to create an anti-fragile retirement. That's one that's not just protected from bad times, a little bit more detail, but it's also anti-fragile is being able to take advantage of bad times too. So I'll kind of share how our clients think about it and how we think about it and what you can do too. So be subscribed and hit the bell icon so you get notified when that one comes out soon. I believe it's next week. Now we still get to go over past election years and then how the markets reacted, but to sum it up so far, be prepared for possibility of volatility and sensationalized news stories that cause us to worry, and then also AI deepfake videos in mass media. I think that's going to happen, but again, hopefully not, but just be prepared. Step 2 is review current allocation and then the buckets, right? The cash and conservative bucket. And then step 3 is think about rebalancing if things are way out of whack, since you set up your investment plan in the first place. Now, rebalancing, it might not have made sense as you were going through the accumulation years and saving years, because as you look at history, the growth piece of the pie, if you imagine the pie, the growth piece would be growing and getting larger, right? Faster than everything else because it's growing the fastest.